Toot, toot, ooh. It's time to ride the funk train. Now listen here, folks. This is Funkmaster V of the TV show Wrestling with Ghosts. I'm a pro wrestler, I'm a booty shaker, I'm a lip smacker, and let me tell you, I love independent television. Now, Kat here at Paranormal Heart has let me talk to you for a second about Asy Television. A-S-Y Television. Look it up. Soon it will be on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, and online for a cheap, low price. You can watch hundreds and hundreds of shows, including scary shows like my own, Wrestling with Ghosts, or food shows like Go There, Eat That, Best Day Ever, the UFO show with Amy Dumas, the list goes on and on. It's AsyTV.com. Check it out now. ASYTV.
Welcome to Paranormal Heart, a place where people can talk about their paranormal experiences. With your host, Kat Ward.
Welcome back, folks, to Paranormal Heart. I'm your host, Kat Ward. As always, you can find me on Podbean and YouTube, as well as New Lantern Media, Amazon Podcasts, and any place you find podcasts. If you'd like to be on the show to share your experiences, or you'd like me to narrate your story, just drop me an email at paranormalheart13@gmail.com. I'd like to dedicate this episode to our beloved fur baby Molly. It breaks my heart to say that our 11-year-old black lab crossed over the Rainbow Bridge last weekend. Rest in peace, Molly. You will always remain in our hearts. Folks, I have a great episode for you tonight. I'm joined by Hoodoo practitioner Miss Aida. She has many talents, including author and teacher. Miss Aida was born into a Cuban family who practiced Santeria, Palo, and Brujeria. The practice of magic has always been part of her life. Miss Aida is a natural-born medium and a Hoodoo practitioner, in addition to having received many initiations in Santeria and Palo. She is a registered nurse and a proud United Air Force veteran. Miss Aida holds a Master's of Science degree in Health Services Administration. A renowned authority on Hoodoo, she is available for workshops, seminars, media presentations, as well as private psychic readings. Find her at www.missaida.com and join her Facebook page where she provides live questions and answer periods every other Sunday at www.facebook.com/MissAidaPsychic. I introduce to you Miss Aida. Hello, Miss Aida. Welcome to Paranormal Heart.
Well, thank you for having me. Hi, Kat. Hi.
Thank you so much for being here. We've had, as usual, little technical difficulties here, but we've made it finally.
Yay for us.
Yeah, and a big thank you to Brian Bowden for helping us out with this. Greatly appreciated, Uncle.
Oh, he's the best. He's the absolute best.
That he is. But I won't tell him that. No.
No, don't tell him I said that, whatever you do.
Egos and everything, you know.
So everybody knows we've been teasing Brian for about 5 minutes before the show started. So that's why we're cracking up.
And every once in a while he pops in the video and just shakes his head. One finger salute.
Poor Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, well.
Thank you for everything, Brian. Thank you.
Yes, we love you.
Yes, we do.
So, Miss Aida,
you are... Oh, no, look at this. He just came back into the mask. Did you see that?
No, I didn't. I was looking down at some of my notes.
You missed it.
Oh, jeepers. So you are extremely interesting individual, and the book that you sent me, I absolutely loved it. It was so well written, and I plan on reading it a second time. I just loved it. I can't say enough about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very proud of that book.
And you should be.
Yeah.
For those of you listening, it is called Hoodoo Cleansing and Protection Magic. Banish, I always want to say banishing. Banish negative energy and ward off unpleasant people. A mouthful, I know, but it is well worth it. You really have to pick it up. So informative. There's so many aspects in there that I really like. One of the first stories that really drew me to it as well is in the beginning, your first story when you said God made me a human magnet for people with problems. And that's something that has always happened to myself as well throughout my life. So that's something that I could relate to. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it used to be. It still is, though. I've got to admit it. It still does happen. But, you know, at one point in my life, I couldn't even make it out of my car at a parking lot, at shopping stores. And people would stop me and, hey, how you doing? I'm fine. And then tell me all their problems.
Yeah, life story, life problems.
It was everywhere I went. Everywhere I went. And by the time they were done with me, I just felt so bogged down. Mm-hmm. I'd start out happy-go-lucky and, you know, having a wonderful day. And by the time they were done with me, it felt like somebody dumped 50 pounds on my shoulders. And I'd feel bad and they'd walk away better, you know, feeling better. Mm-hmm. And as I say in the book, I said, you know, I came home and I told my mother was a witch, you know, she was a very powerful witch. And I told my mother, I said, you know, what the heck is going on? And that's when she didn't know the term aura, you know, she was from Cuba. She didn't, you know, but she talked about this bright, shiny light that I had, right? And she said, people want to take some of that bright light for themselves and then exchange it for their garbage that they'll dump on you. And she was talking about the aura is what she was talking about. And, you know, and I do say in the book that she said, now you go spray yourself with agua florida, you know, you go spray yourself with Florida water, yeah. You know, before they trouble, they stick to you, you know. So as I got older, you know, I learned about the aura. That's what she was talking about the whole time. So that's how the book starts. The book starts at, we all have a shining, glowing aura. Mm-hmm. And people will get attracted to that. They'll get to come to you as if you're a magnet. Like maybe, you know, it's like someone has a bunch of money in their hands, right? And someone starts schmoozing up to you, hoping to get some of that money. Get what I'm saying? So it's kind of the same thing. And in a way, it's almost like a psychic vampire, where they're taking that glowing energy and then leaving you with their garbage, right? So that's the whole foundation of the book. And I talk about all the different ways that negative energies can get attracted to you. It doesn't necessarily have to be people dumping their problems. That's just one example, right? But you know how you can have negative energies dumped on your aura in different ways. It can be from people, it can be from objects, it can be from energies that are lingering in a certain location, like in a room. Let's just say hypothetically, you and, let's make this good. Let's make this really, really good. So you and George Clooney.
Yes.
Okay, you and your lover, George Clooney, you're in a room and you get into a horrible, horrible fight, right? And then he leaves and all that, and you say, you know, Aida, can you come over? I need to talk to you. You know, George is gallivanting around with all these actresses and cheating on me. And I come into your home, into your room. I don't even have to know what the problem is. You don't even have to tell me you got into a fight with him. All right. I can walk into that room and feel that negative energy.
Yes.
I can feel it because that's what you've thrown around. And the way that I compare it, because I have German Shepherd dogs and I'm always sweeping and vacuuming and mopping, and every single, you know, day I do this. But you know what happens when it's not cleansed? Those hairs linger around in the air until they find something to cling to. So what are they going to cling to? They're going to cling to me. They're going to cling to you. Now you come and tell me all your problems, and now my aura becomes suppressed. And the reason it becomes suppressed is because it's being weighed down with negative energies, right? So that glow becomes more and more and more suppressed. And that's just another example of how you can suppress your aura. I talk about abused women, and because I'm a registered nurse and I hold a master's degree, psychologists and psychiatrists have told me that an abusive man could walk into a room with 100 women, right? Mm-hmm. And there might be one woman who had been previously abused, whether it be in her childhood, which most likely that's where it starts, right? Or an abusive relationship. And he will go right to her. And psychiatrists and psychologists will call this a phenomenon. And it's not a phenomenon. Those abusers can sense a suppressed aura, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what attracts them to abusive women. And it's part of the reason that, and you know, I ought not say abused women, because men can be abused too, yes. Right? But they know it isn't, you know, yes, they study the body language. Yes, you know, they study the behaviors, but they also sense the aura. They also sense the aura, and they'll get attracted to that person, you know, whomever it may be, like a magnet. So it's another reason that abusive relationships tend to be repetitive with other people too. So unless you replenish that aura and change your attitude, it's going to continue happening.
How can a person replenish their aura?
So there's different ways of replenishing the aura, and in the book, you know, Hoodoo Cleansing and Protection Magic, mm-hmm. I talk about different ways to replenish the aura, and it depends on what the degree of auric suppression is. So if I go out and drive to the store and everybody gives me the finger, right? And I come home and I'm in a bad mood and my aura might be somewhat suppressed, right? I could spray myself with Florida water. I could spray myself with a mixture of 2 cups of water with a teaspoon of sea salt. I could spray myself with Florida water, or I could take a bath. I could take a bath with, you know, and no more than 1 tablespoon of ammonia to a whole bathtub filled with water, because more, you know, the adage more is better doesn't apply to ammonia, right? Yeah, right. I could take a bath with that. I have a lot of techniques, but it depends on the degree of auric suppression. The other thing that I stress over and over and over again is that your spiritual wellness, your psychological wellness, and your physiological wellness are all interrelated. And if one is affected, the other 2 will be also. Mm-hmm. You know, so depending on the degree of auric suppression, there are different ways to replenish it. For minor nuisances, you know, a spray of holy water, Florida water, salt water, all the things that I had previously mentioned. And there's a lot more, as I mentioned in the book. But For major auric suppression, depending on what's causing it, is an illness, right? People who are physiologically ill will have auric suppression because, again, the three are interrelated and they affect each other, right? So it depends. You might have to do, one might have to do other things in congruence with the spiritual cleansing also. So I talk about sunlight, I talk about music, I talk about colors, I talk about audio sensations and visual, you know, turn the television on, have good music, stay away from people that will throw their dirt, you know, I call it dirt, you know, the dirt of the aura, throw that dirt on yours. There's lots and lots of ways, again, depending on the degree of the suppression, which is covered, right? In the book, I also talk about the different ways the aura becomes suppressed, what, you know, I name different types of scenarios. I talk about, you know, people, as we just previously discussed. I talk about energies. I talk about entities. I talk about illness. I talk about every possible way that an aura can become suppressed and how to combat that phenomenon.
Now, before I read your book, I'd never heard of Florida water. Can you explain to the listeners and a little bit to myself as well exactly what it is?
So Florida water was made in the 1800s by a company called Murray, Landman, and Kemp. And interestingly enough, it is used not only in the Latin American countries, but it's also used in Asia and other countries. And it's very popular because it is, I gotta say this in English, I was gonna say it in Spanish. It refreshes you. It has certain ingredients in it that will replenish the aura. And it is used for cleansing the aura. It's used to cleanse your room. Like, I will pour a bottle of it into a spray bottle, and, you know, I will spray a room or spray myself. And even without the spiritual value, if people don't believe in the spiritual aspect of it, just the concoction alone will just make you feel great. It has an alcohol base, and I ask people to please don't spray your furniture or the leather or wood or anything like that, because the alcohol will, you know, it will damage things. But you can spray the air, you can spray yourself. I spray my dogs with it. And then when this COVID-19 business came out, I realized, wow, you know, Florida water also has an alcohol base, so it also acts as a disinfectant, right? And so now it has even more, you know, useful purposes, but it works wonderful in getting rid of negative energies. It's just wonderful. It gets rid of negative energies, and it also acts as a protection agent too. So there's a lot of spiritual practices that use Florida water, especially in Santeria, in Palo. We use Florida water for everything. The spirits also are very attracted to Florida water.
Sounds like the world right now could have bunch of water bombers just dropping Florida water around the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely could use it right now.
So there's a website. I always make as Murray, Landman, and Kemp, right? Now, obviously these guys are dead, right? But I always say Murray doesn't live there anymore. And so the website is Landman Kemp is a website. So I'm sure that they ship to Canada. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure they do. You can find Florida water in most, if not all, spirit metaphysical stores, whether it be Botanicas or otherwise. It's very popular with the metaphysical community.
Well, there's a store here in my town called Brimstone and Belladonna, and it's Wiccans that have a little Wiccan shop, and that's where I usually go buy my crystals. Next time I'm in there, I'll have to ask if they have any.
Okay, all right. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I found it in Wiccan stores. Right. I'm not a Wiccan, and I have the utmost respect for Wiccans, and I think their practices are just beautiful, and you know, their read, if it harm none, do as thy will, you know, and they're wonderful. But I'm not familiar with all their practices. I personally know of some Wiccans that do use Florida water. I'm just not sure if it's an everyday practice, but surely if you ask them to order it, you know, they can get their hands on it.
I'm sure they could. I probably should have started off with this. Can you tell us the difference, because you are a hoodoo practitioner? Could you tell us what the difference between hoodoo and voodoo is?
Voodoo is with a V as in Victor. Voodoo is an African traditional religion. It's a magical religious practice, okay? Whereas hoodoo with an H is an African derivative tradition, and it's a folkloric magical practice. So with voodoo, they call in gods and goddesses. In hoodoo, we do not. In hoodoo, their foundation is Judeo-Christianity. So there's a lot of Judeo-Christian prayers associated with hoodoo, right? And that's the major difference. But the bottom line is both derive from Africa. So as the slaves were taken to different countries, so where do they practice voodoo? They practice voodoo in Haiti, right? So, you know, the practices sort of assimilated. Now, I came from a family that practiced Santeria and Palo. So in Santeria and voodoo are sort of sister religions. I always say same players, different names. So I can't tell you the names of the deities in voodoo, all right, but I can certainly tell you the names of the deities in Santeria. And with Santeria, and I can only speak for Cuba and Puerto Rico, you know, my mother was Cuban. So when the slaves were brought to Cuba, and they weren't not allowed to practice their religion, right? But what they found was similarities between their deities, which are called orishas, and the Catholic deities. So what they did was they used the Catholic saints interchangeably, right? So Saint Barbara has the same, I'm giving you examples, Saint Barbara has the same characteristics as Chango, Kabiasile. So, you know, they use the term interchangeably. You know, the Virgen Caridad de Cobre, you know, Our Lady of Charity, same characteristics as the Orisha Oshun. And even I do that. You know, I will pray to them interchangeably. Saint Lazarus is Baba Luaye, right? And I'm sure, you know, you younger people don't know, but in my generation, we had I Love Lucy's show, right? Yeah. And Ricky Ricardo, you know, Desi Arnaz, he sings the song, Baba Lu, Aye, and then he's got the drums and all. It's really, really cool. But if you know Spanish, right, he's telling everybody in the song how to perform a spell to Baba Lu Aye, right? And who is Saint Lazarus. So when I pray to Saint Lazarus, I will call him either one. If I pray to the Virgen Caridad de Cobre, I will call her either one. I use the names interchangeably, right? So, you know, it's like their religion sort of melded with the Catholic religion. I'm talking about Santeria, right? So they mesh and it becomes the birth of something else, which is Santeria. So when the Africans came here to the States, and, you know, I do know I don't know that much, but there was like an underground railroad thing where they escaped to Canada, or with the help of Canada. I'm not real, the Canadians know all about this. They're experts, you know, the ones that write about this. But what they did here was, you know, they would use the Bible, the Christian Bible, and that's how that religion, you know, the Judeo-Christian, what we practice, what most of us practice, you know, Christianity, got incorporated into Hoodoo. And you would be very, very surprised at how much just normal prayer is to, you know, I'm Catholic, how much normal prayer is for us, which is a prayer for Hoodoo. You know, it's the exact same thing. So Hoodoo isn't an intimidating practice. And, you know, with Santeria and Voodoo, they all get a bad rap. And, you know, I was explaining to somebody else a couple of weeks ago that, and this is what people have to be careful with, is there are a lot of frauds out there in the metaphysical community. And I write about that also in my book. And I also talk about what are the telltale signs of fraudulent psychic readers and fraudulent metaphysical practitioners, and what they will try to do, what the frauds will try to do, is to intimidate you. Like, no, you can't pray to this. No, you can't do this. No, it's dangerous. Oh, you know, Santeria is very dangerous and the Orishas will kill you and do horrible things. Or, you know, you can't practice Hoodoo because all these horrible things will happen to you. No, 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 no. It's because they want to get the money, right? So they kind of make these practices, you know, exclusive to them. Voodoo gets a bad rap, the voodoo with the V, it gets a bad rap because of all the movies with the zombies and how to bring them. And it isn't that way. It is a beautiful, beautiful religion. But, you know, mainstream society, and I don't care what country it is, you're only going to hear the bad stuff. That's all you're going to hear. Oh, you know, they bring dead people alive, you know, that kind of crap. And by the way, you know, they have found that it's just a chemical that they feed them, and they're really, really not 100% dead. And, you know, I haven't met ever a voodoo practitioner that was a nasty person or an intimidating person, nor have I in Santeria or Palo. But guess what? I've met a lot of them under the guise of what I've previously mentioned, who are frauds. So if someone's warm and welcoming and sure, you know, do this, do that, you know, let me help you, that's a telltale sign too. You know, if this person really wants to help you, or if the person wants to rip you off.
I found that was a very valuable part of the book as well, trying to notice or recognize the frauds compared to the legit people. I'm also a paranormal investigator, so I was really happy that you had a little section in your book on how to spot the frauds as well. So I really appreciate you writing that section.
Yeah, well, in the paranormal investigation, what I did was I had interviewed an expert, right? Because I'm not a paranormal investigator, but I had interactions with one team once, and all but one were only interested in self-promotion. And I thought that they were a bunch of jerks, all but one, okay? I thought they were jerks. I thought that they were, you know, full of themselves, and I would ask questions and I'd get laughed at or blown off or given flimsy answers. And, you know, I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist. However, this didn't seem right to me, you know? And so I wanted to warn people about paranormal investigators also, because I have heard that there's as many like the ones I've met as there is true legitimate investigators, such as yourself, such as Brian, such as Big Al.
Big Al, yeah.
How do you spot the difference? So at the time, I didn't know Brian or Big Al. And so, because when we write a book, it doesn't get published that very fast, right? It takes a few years. And so I had to interview someone that was a professional, and he told me how to identify what are the telltale signs between a fraudulent paranormal investigative team and a legitimate one. But I can't take credit for that section. It's a couple of pages. I can't take credit because all I did was interview someone. Get what I'm saying? I just wanted to make sure that the public was aware.
Yeah, and that's something that we tell our clients as well. We don't charge. People reach out to us because they've experienced something in their lives that they can't understand. So we go and investigate for them and ask, you know, whatever we find, do you want us to get rid of it? So we don't just go in, investigate, and leave. That's almost like going to see the doctor and he says, oh, yes, you have pneumonia. Thank you very much. Go away.
Exactly.
You know,
and that'll be $100. Bye.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So normally the legit ones do not charge, first of all. And we have come across quite a few paranormal investigators. No, not everyone, but they're in it for fame and fortune. And that's really sad to me.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
It really is.
Another part of the book that I really enjoyed was the the mirror box.
Everybody likes my mirror box
Yes,
spells.
I love the mirror box. Tell us about that.
Everybody wants to talk about the mirror box spells. They're simple, effective spells. You can use them either way. You can use them to what's the word? Confine somebody, or you can use them to protect yourself. They're very simple spells, and they're very effective. So what I use are, and I'll tell you folks what Kat is talking about is, I talk about using a mirror box as a means to make somebody everything that they are, to make it bounce back to them. So if I were a dirty, rotten, no good for nothing person, and you put me in a mirror box, and I'll tell you shortly how to do it. If you put me in a mirror box, everything that I am will bounce back to me. And then you could actually, if you want to even carry that further, you could make the mirror box and then stick it in the freezer, so that you're doing two things. You're freezing the person out of your life, and yet, you know, simultaneously, not yet, but simultaneously, you're making everything that they are bounce back to them. So what I do is I go to the craft stores, and they have 2-inch square mirrors, and they're usually 4 for $1. So you'd have to get $2 worth, right? Because it takes 6 squares to make a box. And you would put a picture of the person. So you would make the box, and it takes a little bit of practice, but it's not really that hard. And the reflective side of the mirrors would be the inside of that box, right? And then you would put a picture of that person in the box before you put the lid on. The eyes have to be showing, and the eyes have to be looking directly at you. The eyes are the windows to the soul. So if I get a side view of somebody or someone looking down, it's not going to be an effective spell, right? And then you can write on the back of the picture their name and their birth date, and then put that picture in a mirror box with the reflective side on the inside. And then, like I said, you could take that a step further and stick it in the freezer. Now, there's an opposite continuum to that, and that's to protect yourself. So with mirrors, feng shui, I think that's how it's pronounced, feng shui, they're into mirrors, and it's also a hoodoo practice too. So you could put mirrors with the reflective side facing, you know, you could put it by your windows with the reflective side facing the outside, so that if anybody is wishing bad things to you, it bounces back, right? So I have a mirror on my front door, right? And they do it in Feng Shui. They do it in a lot of spiritual practices. So you could take this mirror box and do the exact opposite. You could, now the reflective side of the mirrors would have to be on the outside, right? And you could put your picture into that mirror box and then close it up. It's a little bit harder to make a mirror box this way because now, and that's the other thing, is you got to use duct tape. Duct tape is beautiful for the one where you're sticking in the freezer, right? Because you got to cover those cracks. But now you got to do it differently. Now you got to line the inside of the mirror box with the duct tape. That's a little bit harder to do, but it just takes a little, maybe 10 minutes more practice. And then put your picture in the mirror box and then close it up, and then make sure, you know, the cracks that make them, that you're bringing all the squares together, just, you know, thinly line those cracks with the duct tape. And then you can put that under your bed. Now, what I do for me, you got to do that once a year. You've got to replenish that. But what I do is, for me, is I put my picture in, and then I put it along with protective herbs. And rue, R-U-E, has been used since ancient times. And rue acts not only as a protection agent, but it also clears away negativity. So back in the olden days, and there might be some churches that still practice it, but they would use rue in their holy water, right? So the only thing is, you know, don't, you know, and I have this in my book, rue is another bathing herb. You know, you could take a bath, and I tell you how to boil the herb and strain it, but you just got to be careful with rue because it has abortion aspects. So I ask that anybody that is pregnant to stay away from rue. Okay. There's a lot of other protection herbs that you could stick in the mirror box. You could anoint your picture with holy oil or blessing oil. You could add charms of Saint Michael in that mirror box with yourself. You could add charms of Saint Benedict. And Saint Benedict is one of the most popular saints, and he had fought off the devil. So not only Saint Michael, right, who the archangel, but Saint Benedict, who was a living being that everybody met, right? And I have charms of Saint Benedict over each and every door that I have, over each and every window. So you can put a charm of Saint Benedict in there, Saint Michael, and you can do that. Another thing that you can do to protect yourself, and I do this for clients, is, you know, and now I'm getting away from mirror boxes. Okay, so you can put that, you make the mirror box, you close it up, you can put it anywhere. I put mine under my bed. You could put it in your dresser drawer. It doesn't matter. I kind of like it out, though, because if anybody's throwing negativity, then it's going to bounce back. So for me, placing that mirror box underneath my bed is the best place, because if people are spiritually attacking you, and it doesn't necessarily mean if someone's putting a curse on you, but, you know, if I hate your guts so badly, or if I'm so jealous of you, I'm going to be sending you negative energies, right? And most likely you're going to get attacked when you're asleep, because that's when you're the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I like to put that mirror box under my bed. But, you know, now that I'm talking about protection, there's a pretty neat one that, you know, I do for my clients, is I buy the St. Michael prayer cards, right? I don't print this from printing paper, because you got to have something sturdy. You know, what are the prayer cards? They're like 10 cents, 25 cents each. And what I do is I tape, you know, either my picture or my client's picture. I put them face to face with a picture of yourself with your eyes showing. I put that face to face with the prayer card of Saint Michael, right? And then I just use clear tape and I tape that up. And you can make as many as you want. You can put one in your wallet. You can carry one in your purse. You can put one, at your nightstand. The more that you do, the better. But what you're doing is you're binding yourself to Saint Michael, is what you're doing.
Now, when you mentioned bouncing back, I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. When you mentioned bouncing back, it reminds me of this little saying we used to have as a child. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Is I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you.
Oh my God, I haven't heard that in decades. Yes. I like it.
Yeah.
I wish I'd talked to you before I'd written that book. I would have stuck that in there.
Well, you can have another edition.
Yeah, that's true. Second edition.
Yeah. Now, in Hoodoo or Santeria, do you burn sage?
No. Well, in Hoodoo, yes. In Hoodoo. In Santeria, no.
Okay.
No. Sage is not. Sage is I actually learned about sage from a Native American shaman. He was Cherokee. And he taught me a lot. And oh my God, this was years and years ago. God, he was good looking. Really handsome, but he was a real shaman. And he always used to say that you would burn sage to get rid of the negative energy, right? And then to get rid of the negative entities also. And then you would follow that up by burning sweetgrass to bring in the positive energies and the positive entities. So getting rid of the bad and bringing in the good. So it's a practice in Wicca. It's a practice in Hoodoo. Remember, Hoodoo assimilates. Hoodoo ended up assimilating. And Hoodoo is a combination of African traditions, Judeo-Christian, Asian, Native American, Spanish. It's got everything in it. It melded, just as Americans have melded, right? So has this practice.
Yeah, I sage in my house every once in a while, especially you can sometimes feel negative energies in the house. The air just feels a little heavier. The family will get a little bit short with each other. Then it's time. Then I know it's time to start to sage the house, and it just feels so lighter in the house. And, I really love the smell of it as well.
Right. Sage, Florida water does the same thing. I use holy water also I only get my holy water from Lourdes, France. Unfortunately, now with the COVID thing, they don't sell the liter bottles anymore because it's hard to get through customs, right? So they have the smaller bottles. So, I put the Lourdes water in a spray bottle, and I use that sparingly because I can't get my hands on too much. And I just want to warn everybody: don't be buying this from other, and I don't want to mention, but don't be buying them from other internet services because you don't know what you're buying, right? So I could have a bottle of Lourdes water, right? Use the whole thing up, fill it up with regular water, and then, tap water, and then sell it on where, right? And because the bottle says Lourdes water, right? You're going to give me an arm and a leg. Pay me an arm and a leg. I say only buy your Lourdes water from the grotto, and you can, the link to that website is direct from Lourdes. That's the website. And please don't buy it from anybody else because, like I said, you don't know what you're buying. You have no clue. And, in that respect too, and I talk about this in my book also, is be careful with some stores that sell holy water. Not, now I'm getting away from Lourdes water, just holy water, period. Okay. You don't know what you're buying. I was kind of forced into, kind of like, not forced, that's not the right word, but pressured into buying this holy water from a botanica. I think, you know what, it's only a couple of dollars. And I write about this in my book. And, you know, just to humor the shop owner, I bought it. And there was no way I was going to use it. Never, never, never. But I opened the bottle when I got outside of the store, and it was disgusting, murky, stinking, old altar water from someone's altar. And I stood in front of the store. I didn't write this part in my book. I was waving at the shop owner, and I was pointing at the bottle, and I just poured it upside down all over the sidewalk. You know, and then I gave her the okay, you know, meaning to me, yeah, you made an easy $2. You know what I mean? Don't be buying that. There's a company, a very, very, very well-known company that sells holy water, and I am willing to bet my bank account that it's just tap water. Okay. Yeah. I doubt that they have a priest blessing all this water. Never anywhere did I see how are you proving this is holy water. The other thing that some of these major stores sell is river water, ocean water. You don't know. You don't know. Exactly. You don't know that came from their faucet. You don't know this.
Beware merchants selling snake oil.
Snake oil?
Yeah, you've never heard of that?
Yeah, I know exactly what snake oil is.
I was going to say you should.
I would buy from a reputable company and just look at the ingredients. You know, make sure the packaging is professional. You know, and look at the ingredients. Yeah, I mean that is the real deal, right? But you have to look at who's selling the product and how it's packaged and what it says. Because, you know, if it's a major company, you know, a very popular company, and they're selling snake oil, which is hard to find, by the way, okay? And it's not snake oil. Hey, you know, I'm sure Canada's laws are the same as the USA. You could sue them, right? So there you go. You can't prove to anyone if something is holy water. How are you going to prove or disprove that? Yeah. No. You can't. You can prove or disprove snake oil, which again is hard to find. It really is. And I know back in the olden days, this is before I was born, and I'm an old bag, right? So they would call something that was fake, you know, if it was a fraud, they go, oh, they're selling snake oil. Well, there really is snake oil. You know, people in Hoodoo have used it for ligament problems. You know, my knees are bothering me, whatever. So it actually exists.
It's so sad that there's so many shysters out there.
Well, you know, that's another thing I tell people. I'm very into the Psalms, and most practitioners are, and the Psalms were written for, you know, they come from the Hebrew Bible, right? And what we consider to be the Old Testament. And, you know, my Jewish friends don't like that, don't like it when we call it the Old Testament, because that's a Hebrew Bible. That is their living Bible, right? But the Psalms, you know, they were written by King David, and, you know, there is some whisperings that some of them are written by Moses. So I'm talking about thousands of years ago, right? Yeah. And one of the Psalms that really gets to me is Psalm 37. There's 40 verses. It's a wonderful uncrossing psalm, and I highly recommend that this prayer be recited, the psalm be recited aloud in the bathtub. But they talk about all the shysters that existed back then. They talk about how bad people spread themselves like a bay tree, right? They talk about how they do everything in their power to hurt the righteous ones. And it seems like they're succeeding, right? And then towards the end, it talks about how they're going to get crushed, right? But it cracks me up, because reading that psalm is is like we're talking about society today. Is how it feels to me. And here it was written 2,000 years ago. So, you know, Kat, I just don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think much has changed.
No. Our clothing and, you know, might have changed in our styles and everything, but I think sometimes I believe that deep down inside, nothing's really changed.
Yeah, what's that old saying? Same game, different players.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. Or
And it exists all over the world. You know, it isn't just us. It isn't just, you know, North America. This exists everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
I mean, human nature is human nature. And you got your good people and you got your not good people. And then you got your really, really bad people. Nothing's changed.
No.
But in the book, you know, I talk about things that one can do to avoid these type of people, you know, and how you can get trapped into their game, how it can happen.
We're running out of time. I was just wondering if you could touch a little bit on Santeria and explain to us exactly what it is.
So Santeria is also an African traditional religion. And Santeria is a combination of Catholicism and the Yoruba religion that comes from Nigeria. So it's a combination of the both. And basically, in a nutshell, and you know, I explained this in the beginning, you're using the saints, the Catholic saints, and not using. I tell people never use that word, using, and I'm using that word. So you worship the saints, the Catholic saints, and the Orishas as one. So again, Babaluaye is the same person as Saint Lazarus, and so on and so on. It's a magical religious practice, as is voodoo.
All right. Very informative. Before we head out, I could talk to you for hours. I really could.
Thank you. You have such a beautiful voice. So
thank you. I hate my voice.
Oh, why? You have a beautiful voice. What are you talking about?
Thank you.
Beautiful.
I'm blushing now. So before we go, I'm going to be adding links to the show notes, but why don't you tell the listeners where they could find more about you and where they can find your books?
Okay, so the book is, you know, and I usually don't say this for the States, but for Canada, I don't know what bookstores sell them because they're all over the, you know, they're in many, many big bookstores in the state, but you can find Hoodoo Cleansing and Protection Magic on Amazon Canada or regular Amazon. There's Amazon.com and then there's Amazon Canada. I noticed today that they're running short on the books in Canada. There's only a few copies left, but you have access also to the regular Amazon, the Amazon.com. My website is Miss Aida, MISSAIDA.com. My Facebook page is Miss Aida Psychic. So don't get that confused with Psychic Miss Aida, right? Because that is also my page, but I interact with people on Facebook /Miss Aida Psychic. And every other Sunday, I have a half-hour live event. And at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, every other Sunday, I'll have a live event and I will answer questions. So you can ask me anything you want and I will answer the questions. And then I also do just a 10-minute teaching segment on practical things that one ought to know when they're performing magic or performing prayers, just practical common sense things. And Hoodoo is not a practice that requires elaborate stuff, right? What did the slaves do when they came here? They worked with what they had.
Yeah.
And so, you know, my books do not require people to go out and buy these hard to find ingredients. Most stuff you probably have in your home. You know, I've already mentioned ammonia, right? So most things you have available. But Miss Aida Psychic on Facebook, missaida.com, and there you go.
Awesome.
I'm also on Instagram. Unfortunately, I don't know how to work Instagram. So if you find me on Instagram, there's not much there. I still haven't figured it out. So
there's just too many places that you can go for social media now.
It's mind-boggling. It's like, oh my God. You know, I just learned how to use a webcam in August. And I had to, because my publisher is like, no, you got to do a live event. I'm like, well, what's a live event? I didn't even know what that is. You know, bought a webcam. It's like, how the heck does this work? It was so complicated to me, and all it was you plug it in, right? That to me was so intimidating and scary. And oh my God, what am I going to do? No, you plug it in. Oh, okay. You know, so that's the place I'm working at. So
I'm sure you'll get there. Well, thank you so much again. I really appreciate you. And I wish you much love and light, and take care of yourself.
Oh, thank you. Same to you. Thank you so much.
Well, we've made it to the end of another episode. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, take care of each other. And if you'd like to be on the show or have questions and comments, just drop me an email, paranormalheart13@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Paranormal Heart would like to extend a special thank you to PurplePlanet.com for supplying the music for the show. The views and opinions expressed on Paranormal Heart are those of the host and participants.